DC recently interviewed Henry Cejudo. In the interview, they briefly went over a couple of topics regarding the Bantamweight Division. I think the take that Henry had is an interesting one to dive in a little bit deeper on, speak on a little bit more. So I'll play this clip, and then afterwards, I'll kind of break it down and give my thoughts on it.
Championship fight, dude. Like let the eyes roll back, dude. I still don't see Sean O'Malley as the best in the world. I don't.
Really?
I don't. I do believe Chito Vera is going to beat him.
You believe so?
You have good defense. You walk that dude down. You kick his freaking legs. He still has that wide leg. You kick his leg, and you just bring the fight to him and grit. This is what Sean O'Malley will do. Look at the clock, because he throws a lot of power. He is precise, but he throws a lot of it.
Yeah.
Like, does he prepare the thing? So I do believe that I would bet the house on Cheeto. Once I beat Merab, I'm gonna get Cheeto next.
Yeah.
And I like that fight too. I like either fight, really.
So he says bet the house on Cheeto. So we'll break this down piece by piece. So one point that he made, he thinks that Sean O'Malley technically, maybe shouldn't have won that fight. He thinks that more opportunity should have been given to Aljo to show that he was still there, was still able to defend himself, and could have continued the fight and, won the fight, essentially, is kind of what it sounds like he's saying. Saying he doesn't believe that Sean is the best, doesn't believe that he deserves to have the belt right now. I don't know if, Henry truly feels this way or if he's just kind of being a little bit of a hater. He did lose to Aljo, and then Sean came in and beat Aljo when you could go back, and I'm pretty sure Henry, leading up to that fight between Aljo and Sean, was giving Sean no chance in that fight. Ended up going the way that he didn't believe was going to happen. So I can see him being a little bit salty with that, thinking that he deserves to be in that place, and seeing Sean in that place just kind of he doesn't agree with it. He doesn't like it. I do think, though, the point that he made about Sean throwing hard and maybe throwing a lot of volume and tiring himself out, I do think that is a little bit of a valid point. I feel like we've seen it in a couple of fights. We could say one being the Peter Yan fight. Now, there was constant back and forth in that fight, but I do feel at times Sean, from just throwing as hard as he was, as much as he was, there was periods of times where he would kind of get a bit tired, be looking at the clock, and I feel like a lot of those key moments where Peter Yan was being a little bit more dominant, like getting certain takedowns and just being able to control the pace more at times, I do think that some of that resulted from kind of what Henry's talking about maybe not being a little bit better with not overthrowing and tiring himself out. Um, I remember watching too when he fought that up and comer. I don't remember what his name was, but it was the guy that had the green hair. Um, I know that he was a Portuguese guy, but I don't remember what his name was. I'm blanking on it, but I'm sure you guys will remember who I'm talking about. In that fight, he couldn't put him away, and towards the end of the fight, it really seemed like he, was starting to get tired. So I would agree with kind of Henry's take on this. What happens if Sean is throwing everything in the kitchen sink at Chito Vera, and Chito Vera is still there? And Chito Vera is not as tired, the fresher fighter. Say they're getting deeper into the third, fourth, fifth round. And I think Cheeto's really good at picking his shots and conserving his energy. He has heavy shots. I mean, you've seen him knock some people out, like Dominic Cruz, like Frankie Edgar. I think that that could be an issue. I think that is something that Cheeto could end up capitalizing on in the fight. I think he is going to come into this fight starting off a little bit more slowly, have his defense up, and I think once he starts seeing where he can pick some shots, I think he'll be able to catch Sean. And I think that he will be able to finish this fight just like he finished the fight last time with the KO or TKO. Now, that's one piece of what Henry was talking about. Now, the other piece, Henry's talking about he already sees that fight being lined up for him. He's got to get through Merab. And I don't think that that's going to be anything close to an easy fight for him. I mean, you see it a lot with fighters, they're going to be confident in themselves and not even question or think that they're going to lose or have a possibility of losing. But I really do think that this is probably going to be one of Henry's hardest fights. You could probably say the DJ fight, all-time hardest fight for Henry out of everybody that he's been matched up against. I think this will be number 2. And maybe him first fighting Aljo and not winning that fight, having him reflect on his game plan and just where he is as a fighter, maybe that'll benefit him a lot more and you'll be able to see a better version of Henry coming into this fight with Merab. But I do think that this fight possibly goes the distance and is going to be a very high-paced fight. I think Merab is going to push a crazy pace. He's going to want to have a lot of wrestling scrambles. And I think whoever has the bigger heart on that night and who has a little bit better of the gas tank, who's able to just push that little bit more in each of the wrestling transitions or stealing the end of rounds, I think that's who's going to end up winning the fight. But I don't see it being easy by any means for Henry. Um, but if all that does come to fruition, and we do see Henry and Cheeto end up being the next title fight, I think that's a very interesting next fight for the bantamweight title. I think maybe not be a headliner, but it could be a co-main event for a pay-per-view. And I think that one that does a lot for if Cheeto does win this title to further his legacy. If he can win the belt and then defend it against somebody like Henry Cejudo, he's up there as being one of the top bantamweights ever. I mean, you could already kind of put it in that. I think in that conversation, a lot of the bantamweights, I think the most title defenses is like 3. So it's not like bantamweight division has anybody that has had really long reigns. And Henry Cejudo, just the accolades that he has, I think could just really push Cheeto's legacy into a higher tier where he can be, considered a you could at least say top 10 bantamweight of all time. Maybe pushing it a little bit with the top 5 because maybe you have some people up there like Henry and Aljo for starters. You can throw TJ Dillashaw in there. I don't know if you hold against him his little failed drug test, but and then you have Dominic Cruz and there's some other names, but I think maybe top 5 for sure, top 10 he'll be placed. And then on Henry's end, he needs this to happen and he needs to have it happen soon if he wants to be able to get a crack at the 145 title. And even if he does get this, I think he's going to have to defend his belt at least once or twice before being able to get a shot at the 145 division. And if he's able to do all that, I mean, we'll save that talk for another time, but if he could, you know, even have the opportunity at having 3 belts in the UFC, that would just be wild. That would set up a crazy storyline, and those fights that, lead up to that are big fights and definitely, I think, will draw a lot of attention and eyes to be watched. But that's kinda my breakdown of this clip. I don't want to make this video too long. What do you guys think? What do you think about Henry and his statements in this? Do you agree with it? Do you agree that, Sean shouldn't be the champ right now? Do you agree that Cheeto's going to be able to easily win this fight from kind of the way that Henry made it sound? And do you think Henry's going to easily be able to beat Merab? Because he kind of made it sound like that too. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think my take is a good one, or do you think that I'm delusional? Just comment down below, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.